President Trump is slashing the size of the federal government and having a blast doing it. He posted this banger meme featuring Russ Vought as the Grim Reaper. Courtesy of the Dilly 300 meme team. And I have to tell you, I'm having so much fun making America great again and making politics fun again. I'm telling you that politics has never been such a spectator sport as it is with President Donald Trump. And it's not just President Donald Trump. I mean, we'll give him the majority of the credit, but it's the Democrats' reaction to President Donald Trump that keeps this so interesting. And President Donald Trump was on OAN doing an interview with somebody that I've never seen before, discussing not only the government shutdown, the Schumer shutdown, the Democrat shutdown, not only the memes that he's been posting, but this memo that went out about the cuts and about what Russ Vought, the director of the OMB, is going to be doing in the days that the government is shut down. Look, just because a lot of workers are furloughed, just because our troops aren't getting paid, doesn't mean that the executives at the executive branch of the government are going to be taking any days off. They're going to be waking up, going to work every single day, doing what needs to be done. And what needs to be done right now is slashing the size of the federal government, but for good.
There was an OMB memo going around suggesting that there might be firings during the shutdown. Do you think that will happen if the shutdown goes for a little bit of time, sir?
Well, there could be firings, and that's their fault. And it could also be other things. I mean, we could cut projects that they wanted, favorite projects, and they'd be permanently cut. So you could say, a lot of people are saying Trump wanted this, that I wanted this closing, and I didn't want it. But a lot of people are saying it because I'm allowed to cut things that should have never been approved in the first place. And I will probably do that.
A lot of people are saying, I wanted this. I didn't want it, but since it's here, you know what? We're going to take full advantage of it. President Donald Trump's not going to look a gift horse in the mouth, and he's not going to sit by and just let the government be shut down. He's going to do what he needs to do to A, make government great again, B, make government streamlined again and save taxpayers money, and then C, force the Democrats to get back to work and reopen the government. He's not going to allow them to hold us hostage for the dumb things that they're asking for.
It's politics, and they're doing things and asking for things that you wouldn't want, and most people that are sane wouldn't want, and patriots wouldn't want. They want illegal aliens to get taken care of with health care. And it's not, look, I have a bigger heart than they do, but it's not even that. Everybody in the world is going to enter our country and say, give us free health care, give us this, give us that. It's going to ruin all of the things that we have, all of the plans that we have. Obamacare was never any good, but it subsists. It's there. And everything will be destroyed because no country has enough money to take care of that. So they want the illegals. They refuse to get away with open borders. They want to do open borders. If they ever got in, they'll open up the borders. We have closed borders now. You only come into our country legally. But they would open up the borders in 2 minutes, and you understand it better than anybody because you've covered it so well for so long. Even though you're a young guy, you've covered it very well. They want transgender for everybody. They want men and women's sports. They haven't learned what happened in the last election. I think they forgot. And it's pretty amazing, actually. But in terms of the dollars or the money that we're talking about, they want us to take care of illegals. They want us to take care of people that can absolutely get a job. They're healthy and strong as you can be and young. And this is not what this was all about.
Yeah, Donald Trump again making the case that the Democrats are turning down a clean CR, a clean continuing resolution that just lets the government stay open at the current level. No changes on either side. No changes for the Republicans, no additions for the Democrats. Nobody gains anything. We just keep the government open so the appropriations process can continue. But the Democrats, not having any power anywhere else in the country, not having any power in the White House or in the Congress or in the Senate or the Supreme Court, or I don't even know on the state level how much power they have these days, because Donald Trump is sending in the troops to places like Portland and Memphis and DC to clean up all of the crime. The Democrats are totally powerless. All they can do is not vote to keep the government open, and in doing so, they are destroying their own political prospects, which is totally fine with me. Caroline Leavitt, the White House press secretary, reiterated how bad the Democrats' proposal is and how the American people are not being fooled by what they're trying to spin. The Republicans have asked for nothing. The Democrats have asked for everything.
That's exactly right, Dana. In fact, I have the Democrat proposed continuing resolution right here, where you can read in the text a provision that would remove the provision that Republicans passed in President Trump's One Big Beautiful Bill to ensure that illegal aliens in our country cannot receive Medicaid and taxpayer-funded health care benefits. That was happening under the Biden administrations, and the Democrats endorsed it, encouraged it, and vocally supported it. Joe Biden and the Democrats allowed millions and millions of illegal aliens into our country. They paroled them into the country. They gave them a Band-Aid called temporary protective status. They completely abused our immigration system. And then those illegal aliens were receiving the taxpayer-funded health care benefits of hardworking American taxpayers. That's why wait times at hospitals went through the roof under the Biden administration, and that's why the Trump administration and President Donald Trump immediately fixed this and changed it into law with the One Big Beautiful Bill. And now Democrats, rather than just passing a clean continuing resolution to keep the government funded, which is what the president and Republicans want, they submitted a continuing resolution that puts this poison pill back into law. That's what they want to do. And it's completely unacceptable. President Trump ran on the promise to end taxpayer-funded benefits going to illegal aliens, and tens of millions of Americans across the country voted him back to this beautiful White House to implement that promise, and he did. And now Democrats want to undo it, and they are holding our country hostage. They are holding the American people hostage for this wildly unpopular proposal to give taxpayer-funded benefits to illegals, and now they're lying about it, and they know it.
Yeah, she's fired up. Everybody's fired up, and that's a great. That's really such a great explanation. And they're all right about how the Democrats are overplaying their hands. The Democrats are not at all popular. Nobody likes the Democrats anymore. The Democrats failed in the election because they promoted these woke policies. They promoted the transgender for everybody. They promoted crime and criminals. They opened up the border. They made this country so unsafe. And now there's been a revolution at the polls in 2024. Donald Trump and the Republicans have been given control of the entire country to undo the mess that the Democrats have done. And now 6, 7, 8 months later, the Democrats in Congress are saying, whoa, whoa, whoa. We want to now undo all the stuff that the people told you to undo that we did during the Biden years that made this country so horrible. We don't want to make America great again. We want to keep it ungreat. And that is why their popularity is sinking. Look at this new poll that came out. Where is it? I just posted it. I don't know. Oh, hold on. Let me close this one. There's a brand new poll out that shows, look at this, Donald Trump hits record approval ratings with black voters, 54%. 54%. This is Political Polls. Wow, such an honor, he wrote. Record stuff for a Republican. That is truly a record, because, and it's damaging to the Democrat Party, not just because Donald Trump is popular, but because he's popular with a voting bloc that's consistently for decades has been voting for the Democrat Party. And that is something that now we're starting to see a change with. And Donald Trump's, look, his entire administration, it's not just Russ Vought. Russ Vought is the architect of 2025, as Donald Trump teased the Democrats with yesterday. Russ Vought is in charge of the budget, and he's the one sending out the memos saying we're cutting, we're cutting, we're cutting. But Russ Vought has also been very specific in telling administration officials and heads of departments, all the secretaries in the cabinet, hey, it's time to tighten the belt. Get all that discretionary spending. Let's rein that in. Whatever you guys need to do, we're going to do. And every single secretary is out there explaining to the media and to the American people we're doing what we need to do because the Democrats are trying to take advantage of you and your taxpayer dollars. Chris Wright, for example, very excited about some of the energy cuts he'll be able to make at the Department of Energy.
This has been thousands of work hours to evaluate all of these projects. Just an incredible, irresponsible deployment of taxpayer money. I mean, should American taxpayers really fund decarbonizing Uber Eats in San Francisco or building e-bike lanes in Portlandia? $600 million to further subsidize construction of unreliable, expensive electricity sources in California. California can do what it wants, but the 49 other states' taxpayers shouldn't be subsidizing that.
Yeah, that is exactly right. California does what it wants, but we're not going to be funding it with energy. And did you notice how we specified California? Because California, A, takes a lot of advantage of you and your taxpayer dollars, and B, is a blue state with a governor who hates President Donald Trump, is not responsible for his own citizenry, and is trying to make a play for the White House. Also, a lot of these senators who have been voting against keeping the government open are from blue states. In fact, every single Republican, except Rand Paul, voted to keep the government open in the Senate, and a handful of Democrats. So if you're a senator from New York or California, if you're a senator from, I don't know, Oregon or Washington State, if you're a senator from Hawaii or Maryland, you're probably going to see some cuts to some of your programs and some reductions in your forces. Thanks again to you. Nobody else. It's not Donald Trump's fault. Doug Burgum, the Department of the Interior, doing the same thing and explaining to Americans, this is the Democrats' fault.
Americans need to know the House has already passed a continuing resolution. There are no changes to the federal budget on the line. If people want to negotiate, they can do that while the government's running as opposed to when it's shut down. And Americans need to know this Democrat shutdown, this Schumer shutdown, for an agency like Interior, where we've got tens of thousands of people across the country, we're now doing everything we can to try to keep our parks open. We can't use any appropriated funds during a time like this, so we've got to be very creative about legally finding ways to pay people and do that. Our first responders, firefighters, law enforcement, all the things that we're doing to keep the essential services going. This just distracts us from advancing and moving things forward for the American people. You would never run a business this way. This is 100% politics.
Yeah, it's 100% politics because Chuck Schumer is underwater in his polling, and Chuck Schumer knows that his political days are numbered. So instead of doing the responsible thing, which is leading his party and keeping the government open and continuing the negotiations with the White House, Chuck Schumer is kowtowing to AOC and the left-wing lunatics in the Democrat Party and keeping the government shut. And Scott Bessent, Treasury Secretary, he pointed out that, look, 6 months ago, back in March, Chuck Schumer voted for this thing. Why now is it a problem? Well, I'll tell you why it's a problem.
Let's just step back for a minute and look how we got here. Chuck Schumer did the right thing in the spring and led the Senate to a clean CR. What we've got here is the House they passed a clean CR. The Republicans have the votes in the Senate, and he will not allow his members to come across. And what's changed since then is it's his poll numbers. So the president, Vice President Vance, Speaker Johnson, Leader Thune, they're not negotiating with Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries. They're negotiating with Representative Ocasio-Cortez because she's nipping at his heels. And, the American people are being held hostage by Chuck Schumer's poll numbers. We're starting to see some of the very few moderate members left in the Democratic Party in the Senate drift toward wanting a solution. Chuck Schumer's blocking it. When I look at Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries, straight out of Brooklyn, makes me glad that I left New York in 2020. And your question about the shutdown, this is a choice that Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries have made. And if they want to shut the government down, then there are ramifications.
Yeah, and that is exactly, that's a very well put place. Back in March, Chuck Schumer had no problem voting for this. Back in March, Chuck Schumer voted to keep the government open. He voted for the clean CR. And what happened after he did that back in March, he got so much flack from his own party. He got so much flack from the lunatics on the left. He got so much flack from AOC and the squad and everyone else. They called him weak. And that's when the primary challenge language started to pop up and bubble up in the Democrat Party. That's when AOC started to make a play for his position. position. That's when she got on a private jet and flew around with Bernie Sanders on the Fight Oligarchy tour. Everyone thought she was going to run for president, which she still may, but she may just be running for Chuck Schumer's seat. She may want to be the most powerful person in the Senate, or I guess the second most powerful person, because the Democrats are in the minority. And that is what now is keeping Chuck Schumer from doing the right thing, which is passing the CR. He knows that if he does what he needs to do, if he votes with the Republicans, if he keeps the government open, if he allows Donald Trump to negotiate and keep the appropriations process going without getting back all of this money for illegal immigrants, then he will have failed his left-wing radicals again, and they will definitely come for him, and they won't stop until they have his head on a platter. Caroline Leavitt mentioned the moderates in the party and said, look, the moderates, they're out there. They want to open the government. They know that this is politically destructive for them, but they're weak. They don't have courage. They're pansies.
As the vice president said at the White House press briefing yesterday, he and our legislative affairs shop and the president himself continue to be in very important discussions with these moderate Democrats and also with our allies, Senate Republicans, who have good relationships with these moderates. And they know what the right thing to do is. They just lack the courage to do it. But they need to step up and they need to vote for this clean continuing resolution to keep the government open that they voted for as recently as March, that they voted for 13 times previously in the past. So there is zero excuse for them to shut down our government right now, and they know it. And very soon, the American people and their constituents back home in states from New Hampshire to Nevada to Arizona to Florida are going to start feeling the pinch of this Democrat-led shutdown. We have millions of troops who are currently going without pay. We have women, children, and infants who cannot apply for a very important WIC program for that critical food and life assistance. And you also look at air traffic controllers who are now having to work without pay. These are critical consequences, and it's the Democrats' fault. And they have a chance to reverse course, and they should.
And they should. And those moderates are going to have to feel pressure from people all over the country. They're going to have to feel pressure from their voters and their constituents. And if they don't feel that pressure from anybody, well, then Chuck Schumer is going to be pressuring them to keep voting no. He does hold the purse strings for a lot of their reelection campaigns, and that is one of the ways that he's able to manipulate and maneuver with his political power. Look, there's a lot more that we're going to be covering with this story. There's a lot more going on today and tomorrow as Russ Vought, the Reaper, starts walking through the halls of every government agency, wielding his scythe and trying to trim down the size of government. Yeah, it's a banger. All right. I love that. I love that tune. Listen, we have so much more, like I said, later today coming up in our second daily podcast. Mark Kaye Saves the Republic. It's a live streamed podcast at 1 p.m. Eastern time, or if you prefer, you can listen to it whenever you want. The best place to find it is at markkaye.com, MarkKaye.com. Click the big red button that says, I want the podcast, download, listen, subscribe, and enjoy.